So excited to have you guys here. Our special guest for today is one of the leading world's top marketer, Rajamannar, the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer and President of Healthcare Business for Mastercard. He's also the author of Wall Street Journal bestselling book, Quantum Marketing. And today we're going to talk about how we can collectively change the world. Today's discussion is on a topic that I'm really passionate about with someone I've admired for years. I first met Raja when I was leading membership at the Association of National Advertisers. I've been fortunate to witness his leadership and kindness in action when I moved on to help build the CMO Master Circle at the ANA and was a general manager of See Her. What I really admire about Raja is that he not only thinks, but he acts based on his purpose. And especially being an Asian American marketer myself, he was one of the few trailblazers when there were very few Asian Americans representing marketers, especially at a Fortune 50 company. The topic on purpose is something that I'm really passionate about. As many community of 7 was built around my belief that there's power when you bring leaders, businesses, and the communities together to leave the world better for our children. I often call our community members and followers raindrops. It's based on this theory that individually we're like raindrops. What we do seems small and inconsequential, but when we come together, we become the ocean. And it's this ocean that creates ripples. The ripples create waves, and that's how changes are made. That's how revolutions are made. When you look at the civil rights movement, when you look at Me Too, Black Lives Matter, these are power when people and companies and organizations come together. Seismic changes have happened in the past 3 years. One of the most notable is the Business Roundtable, which is a nonprofit association for those who aren't aware, based in Washington, D.C., whose members are the top CEOs of major U.S. corporations. So since its inception, the Business Roundtable has based its statement of purpose on economist Milton Friedman's ideology that corporate boards should maximize shareholder value at all costs and not get wrapped up in achieving other objectives. To give you a little perspective, Friedman wrote a New York Times Magazine article in the 1970s entitled, "The Social Responsibility of Business is to Increase Profits." So in the past few years, 2019 in particular, corporate directors and chief CEOs have moved sharply away from Friedman's thinking. And in August 2019, led by Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, the Business Roundtable, which had long upheld Friedman's shareholder primacy, put out a pro-stakeholder statement signed by 181 of the top CEOs with a combined market capitalization of more than $13 trillion, and said that while each of the companies serves its corporate purpose, we share a fundamental commitment to all of our stakeholders, expanding it from traditional Friedman notion of financial shareholders to also include customers, employees, suppliers, and communities. The World Economic Forum issued a Davos manifesto in December saying that the purpose of companies is to engage all stakeholders in shared and sustained value creation. So there's been a CEO-led ESG movement, environment, social, and government. And I want to leave you with a quote from Swell CMO Josh Dean. We're at another industry inflection point where we need to stop thinking purely about financial value and broaden our thinking to encompass human values such as community, purpose, and responsibility. COVID has shown us the need to humanize brands and do more of the walking than just talking, to lead with our hearts and our heads. So purpose is often derided as a buzzword, but studies continue to show that they are more likely to trust and buy from purpose-driven brands. In a recent study, 71% of people say they buy from a purpose-driven company over the alternative if cost and quality were equal. So companies realize that their corporate reputation, internal brand, and employee voice are at stake. Purpose also plays a key role when it comes to where people choose to work. So we know the consumer and employee brands, once far from others, are now entwined. So the study that I mentioned earlier, when companies lead with purpose, respondents were 78% more likely to want to work for that company, 76% more likely to trust that company, 72% more likely to be loyal to that company, 70% more likely to defend that company, and 72% more likely to forgive that company if it makes a misstep. So I'm so super excited for our special guest for today. Raj, as I mentioned, is recognized as one of the leading world's top marketers. He's currently the CMO, Chief Marketing and Communication Officer, and President of the healthcare business for Mastercard. He's also the author of Wall Street Journal bestselling book, Quantum Marketing. He's consistently recognized globally as a highly innovative and transformational leader. He's delivered keynote speeches at the World Economic Forum, Cannes Lions, CES, South by Southwest. Raja's marketing transformation work at Mastercard has been developed into case studies at both Harvard Business School and Yale School of Management. Raja added best-selling author to his title with the recent release of his book, Quantum Marketing, Mastering the New Marketing Mindset for Today's Consumer. And I included that in the chats earlier, and I'm going to also resend it once Raja gets on, because I would love for this community to support Raja and this amazing book. Really quick, Raja, if you can unmute yourself. How has your family and upbringing shaped who you are? Like what, because you've done so many amazing things. How has your family upbringing shaped how you are as a leader? And also, I just wanted to touch upon something else. While doing research for today, I happened upon your interview with Gary Vaynerchuk earlier this year, and he asked you how you got into marketing. And I think it was so fascinating because it really talks about how you've, since an early age, basically used purpose and your mission to drive your career forward. And in it, you talked about how you were a chemical engineering major and how you were getting your MBA with a focus on environmental management. So even at an early age, you were focusing on pollution control, sustainability, and your passion, you thought at that moment, was environmental management, and you switched to marketing. Tell us a little bit more about your journey, your family, and all of this other stuff, just because we'd love to get a personal understanding of your background.
Very happy to. But firstly, thank you so much, very much, Lan, for having me on this forum. I come from India, from relatively a family with modest means, where I was not born into privilege, so to speak. And like we didn't have at our home things like a refrigerator or an air conditioner or a car or stuff like that. So it was extremely modest. And I think the family, however, it was a very happy family. And my parents always gave us a lot of time and attention on the one hand. And my mom particularly played a very significant role in shaping the values that we grew up with for me and my siblings, 3 siblings. I'm the youngest of all. And right from then on, one of the first things that she would tell us is you need to really study well. And if you educate yourself well, that's what will really, on the one hand, of course, you'll develop, but more from a livelihood point of view, you'll be able to get into a better career path. And there is no substitute to good education. And learning is very critical. It's not just memorizing things and spitting them out in examinations, but you should try to learn and internalize them. And I think that stayed with me throughout my life. And even today, I keep telling often to my team that every weekend I spend at least 5 hours learning something. And that's a consistent and a constant commitment, which stood me in very good stead. So that's one part of it. Second, my dad actually when my mom was a homemaker, and he was actually a lawyer, but a very honest lawyer. So those look like a little bit like an oxymoron, right? An honest lawyer, but he was very honest lawyer. And that's the reason why he never made money in any big way. And we could barely get by month after month. And so he always used to say, there were at times, in fact, one of our relatives would come and say, hey, why don't you take up that particular kind of a case? And you can actually get a good amount of money. My dad would not. He says, I know that guy is actually guilty. I'm not going to take up his case. So he was very honest in how he actually practiced. And that values of integrity and straightforward and truthfulness, these really mattered quite a lot to him. And that sort of, see the example of how your parents are. That's what you imbibe. And that becomes a part of your own DNA. And my mom, she grew up in a very small town, slightly larger than maybe a village, and they didn't have much of a schooling there. And she could only go up to grade 6. Beyond grade 6, there were no schools for girls. And girls' education literally ended at grade 6. She was absolutely a brilliant student. And apparently, she cried for months after that because she could not pursue her studies. She always used to be at the top of her class and brilliant student she was. And eventually, she got married and all, and then she settled down. And then, but she would tell us, saying that you don't know what a privilege it is to get educated. I wanted to, I could not. Now she would tell me and my siblings, you guys have the extraordinary privilege of going to education. So education is many students, particularly when they are young and all, they want to have fun and it's all outside of studies. So studies almost seem like a burden or a punishment. Homework used to. So she says, it is not a punishment, guys. It's a privilege. Just you don't know how lucky you are. And she was a genius. Trust me, if she had got the right education, she would have ruled the country or should have got the Nobel Prize. That brilliant she was actually. And that I think also really played quite a lot in terms of looking at things from the right perspective. And she would say, look, to my sisters, I have 2 sisters, and we are 2 sisters and two male children. So she would tell my sisters too, saying that you guys are no lesser than your brothers.
So I don't know if you had the same thing, but I was in marketing for 20 years. I know you've been in marketing for 35, right? And you've always been one of the innovators. But in terms of Asian parents, or especially immigrant parents, do your parents still understand what marketing is? Because literally I've tried to explain to my mom for 20 years and she still doesn't understand what I do.
See, my parents are passed for a while, so they're not around anymore. But the key thing is they knew that whatever I was doing, it was good. So that they were pretty confident in me. But the point I was just about to make was what we today call as gender balance was so intrinsic in our upbringing. So she would say the girls are as much of a privilege as the boys are. All the children are equally privileged. Because in India, particularly, even now, I think that is the truth, where the boys are treated like princes. They get the special treatment at home and everywhere else, but the girls are secondary. So she would say nothing of that sort. In our family, everyone is equal. And we all get exactly the same share of everything. And that also, when what we talk about some of the things like gender balance today, she used to practice so way back. And these things really, they help.
And it's interesting because you were very involved when I was the general manager of See Her in the Gender Equality Initiative. So a lot of that background of your mother was set your stage in terms of what you've done in the industry for gender equality. And you've been a big advocate of that.
Yeah, see, that it really, when I look back, I realize how important childhood experiences are, because those are the things which get hardwired into your brain or into your system. And then you start off evolving from those foundational elements in an appropriate way. And I think it's really a privilege to have parents who are loving and who are taking care of you. And that did shape everything that I do today.
So do you want to touch upon the question I mentioned? You were in a Gary Vaynerchuk interview earlier this year, and you had an amazing story about how you got into marketing. And I felt it was really powerful because you've been at an early age focused on purpose. However, you were a chemical engineer major with a focus on environmental management. How did you get from there to being one of the leading CMOs in the world?
Yeah, I see a couple of things, right? So when I was in my MBA, and I was specializing in environmental management, between the first year and the second year, there was an internship. And I was interning at a color cosmetics company called Lakme. And I was there with that company, and I was working on whatever my project, which was something to do with logistics and all that. And my supervisor, who was in the next room, he was the head of marketing for that space, for that area. So he was having a conversation with the agency people, and they were discussing about the fact that particularly in the smaller towns, or even in all of South India, which was much more conservative in those days than North India, how do you break through the social taboo of, I know if a woman was not supposed to wear color cosmetics, it was seen to be a way she was inappropriately drawing attention to herself. That was the kind of perception. It was very conservative society, right? So they were struggling with it. And I said, why are they struggling so much? And I just took a piece of paper. I was overhearing the conversation because it was an open office and small cubicles were there. I was sitting in one of the tables. And I quickly took a piece of paper and I wrote the caption saying that, is it bad to look good? And then I went into the whole thing and I said, look at my sister, for example. She would love to use cosmetics, but she would not dare to go wear color cosmetic outside the home. I said, that's stupid. You want to wear nice clothes. So what's wrong with wearing a color cosmetic? You want to always project your best. And that doesn't make you a bad person. So therefore I said, is it bad to look good? And then went and shared with them and they absolutely loved it. And it so happened that the chairman of the company was walking by and she saw that. And she immediately fell in love with it. It turned out to be a campaign. It won a lot of awards and all those good things. So what happens is when in a field like that, where I just did something completely spontaneously and without any training whatsoever, that then gives you a sudden motivation. You think maybe I'm actually very good at it. And then therefore you just land in that space. And I continued my journey in marketing ever since. And so here I am, 36 years later.
What I love is the fact that you were in chemical engineering and then focused on sustainability while you're getting your MBA because you really wanted to focus on leaving the world a better place, purpose, the environment. And as a CMO, you're now doing those things with Mastercard. That for me is like mind-blowing. Like your purpose followed you even though your career changed.
I've been blessed with the right opportunities as well in terms of, for example, Mastercard could have said, hey, all the environmental stuff, we have nothing to do with it. But fortunately, they embrace it as well. And so we got Priceless Planet as one of our key initiatives. And we are planting some 100 million trees and doing a whole bunch of stuff.
That's so amazing. Before our event, you provided a quote Macy on your team sent me. And it was basically for leaders looking to lead by purpose. Bring your company's purpose to life by blending it into the core of your business model. Can you explain further what that means?
Yeah. See, typically what happens when a company says it has a purpose, which is good. Every company should have some kind of a purpose. That should be their North Star or the guiding light. And that's what they should actually rely on in terms of everything that the company does. Now, but you cannot accomplish it if you just print it and put it on the walls and write it in your year-ending, reports. It's not about that. Purpose it's something which drives your day-to-day living and day-to-day approach. Many companies, while they do have a purpose, which is a well-thought-through purpose, what happens is it gets relegated to the side to a department which looks after what they call as CSR, corporate social responsibility. So they'll say, okay, you take care of it, or they form a foundation. And you say, okay, you foundation, you take care of it, and we in the business will carry on with commercial interest and solely focused on commercial returns for the company. But the key thing is, when that's not how you bring purpose to life. Your because purpose is not just a side gig. Purpose has to be the core of your business. So you need to embrace that into the core of your business, and you need to shape your business models in a way that purpose is infused into them. That, I think, is a very difficult task, but it is an essential task, because once you do it, what happens is in good times or in bad times, because every business goes through cycles up and down, you will always stick with your purpose through all the cycles. If it becomes an adjacent side gig, when the company is not doing well, you say, forget about the purpose, I need to first survive today. So let me take care of my survival. So purpose gets left behind. You should never let purpose get left behind. It has to be guiding you. It has to be in front of you. So that's why I keep saying a purpose and business are not mutually exclusive. They have to be completely blended together into the core of the business. That's how you bring it to life.
I love that. And you've done an amazing job at Mastercard. I know you've done a lot with various communities, but your Priceless platform is really powered by the idea of passion. And can you explain what that model looks like and the success you've seen come from it in terms of Mastercard's Priceless Passion?
Yeah. So firstly, what we are trying to do is when you have purpose, our purpose, we have got very crystal clear in terms of we have got a 126-word purpose statement that we have got. And every single word of it was very consciously chosen and then put together. The basic thing is that we are here to do good for the society. And by doing good, we will do well. So doing well is not an end in itself. It's doing well by doing good, right? And then we bring it to more tangible demonstration of what that means instead of it remaining in a philosophical state. So this is number one. Number two, we said, what are some of the areas that we should look at? So for example, if I'm passionate about something which can align with my purpose, it can be a winning combination. But the key thing is, if my consumers and customers have different passions, how do I align those to my purpose is very interesting, right? So what we said is we defined 10 different passion categories. So for example, music is a passion for people. Sports is a passion. Cinemas, arts and culture, traveling, shopping, and you have got environmental and sustainability. You got philanthropy. There are 10 different passions, health and well-being. So these are areas which people deeply care about. Then we said, okay, here is music, and here is what Mastercard's objective, his purpose is. How do we connect the dots between the two? So we started curating, for example, experiences that are truly priceless in the world of music and offering it to people who care about music. And then those, we would actually see how we can firstly drive our business as well. And secondly, how do we actually channelize it into something which is doing good for the society? As an example, we sponsor Grammy Awards. By sponsoring Grammy Awards, we get access to certain assets of Grammy Awards, which we package them into experiences for our consumers or card members. Well, number one. Number two, some of the proceeds that happen for us out of this whole Grammy Award stuff is sent to a group called Music Cares. Music Cares is a foundation that takes care of musicians who are relatively elderly or sick, and then they need financial support. So Music Cares actually takes care of them. So you're doing something which is societally good. So there is a linkage to what we are doing on the one side for the passion of the consumers, and on the other side, what we are doing for the purpose, and then try to connect the dots. So we go through by passion point. Like for example, if you look at sports, one of our ambassadors is Annika Sorenstrom. So she's been one of the finest golfers. And being a woman, she's a role model, literally, for a whole bunch of young girls. Like I said, the young girls and young boys, they need to be inspired right from that age. So we actually had a number of interactions for her with very young folks, with very young girls. And also, we have run a program called Girls for Technology, because girls are typically conditioned to believe that STEM areas are not for them. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are only for boys. Girls cannot do it. Now, my mom is was the living proof that it is anything but.
I want to pause you for a second, because your mom would be looking down and so proud of you right now, Raja. Seriously, it's like, just imagine your mother and what she wanted moving past the 6th grade. You're basically enabling these for this next generation of like girls that want to get into STEM. So I'm sure she's looking down at you just saying, yes, Raja.
I'll feel blessed. But the key thing is, what we're doing is we have reached more than 1 million girls so far in the age of, they are 13 and below, between 11 and 13, and try to present these 4 subjects in very interesting fashion to them. For example, if you talk to young girls about fraud management, they will be like put off, right? It's too complex and technical. But if you present it as something, you'll be a detective, and you'll catch hold of guys who are actually trying to do the bad things. It becomes a game. And then they get involved. And before, they're actually talking exactly the principles of what you do for fraud detection and management in a large company at the age of 11 to 13. Just imagine. So it's a question of how do you package it? How do you make it interesting and attractive to them? And then present it. So we have reached more than 1 million girls at this point in time. And we are pretty good.
That is incredible.
That's how we try to take it from end to end and connect it across multiple areas.
So how does passion play into purpose?
See, if firstly, passions are aligned towards your purpose, they don't have to always be aligned, because I might be passionate about something which might not have anything to do with my company's purpose. But if there is an alignment, there is going to be a phenomenal synergy. On the other hand, if there is a conflict, then that's a time when you get out of that company. Meaning, if you don't feel passionate about the purpose of any given company, or worse, if the company doesn't have any purpose at all, then you are literally working day by day, and you're doing a job as opposed to doing something which is inspiring day by day. So the key thing is passion is what drives you. Purpose is what guides you.
Oh, I love that. I love
I
that.
just came up with that. I'm happy. I'll write it somewhere.
Oh,
And I'm going
someone
to use
write it down. Claudine, put that down for in the chats because I love that quote. I think we're going to do that for one of the quote of the days for Community of Seven. Passion is what drives you. Purpose is what guides you. Oh, that's amazing. So Raja, in your recent Wall Street Journal best-selling book, so you added in another title to your already amazing resume. So your book entitled Quantum Marketing, you talk about a company's purpose being the North Star and cause marketing being the roadmap. You mentioned that there's a confusion among the marketing industry that purpose and cause marketing are one and the same, but you say otherwise. Can you explain this?
Absolutely. See, if you look at purpose, look at this way. What is the reason for the existence? Why are we here? You know, and that's the embodiment of that is purpose. What is your purpose? Many of us in life, we drift along, right? We don't really, we say that, oh, I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house, I want to have lots of money, I want to travel the world. They are all objectives, but that's not the purpose. There's nothing wrong with having those objectives because we are not like saints, right? We are real human beings with our own human frailties, and we have got our own aspirations and ambitions, which we should have because we can realize those, but they are objectives. Purpose is a lot more than just realizing these small objectives. It's what do I want to do? For example, if I were to say, you know what, I want to leave a better world behind. You're talking of your purpose is something of a legacy in some particular field. That could be your purpose. Or if you say, I want to really make sure that there is no hunger, that there is no something of that sort, right? It doesn't only have to be philanthropic. A purpose can be non-philanthropic as well. Just make no mistake about it. But the key thing is, purpose is the guiding light, which says that is where I'm going to go. That's where I'm going to lead my life towards. So it's literally, it leads you to that direction. That's what I want to follow. Now, in order to get there, I do a series of things. There are different causes. For example, if my purpose is to eradicate or to bring happiness to humanity at a very high level, like what Mother Teresa used to say, particularly for the sick and the destitute. Or if you're looking, whatever it be. So you want to say, okay, fine. So this might actually have 20 different causes that I can support. Each one of these causes will drive towards that purpose. So when I look at, say, solving hunger, and you want to do a partnership with the World Food Program, and you say, okay, I'll create some promotions and programs, etc., to raise funds or share part of my profits for feeding poor children. That is a cause marketing. Feeding hungry children for 3 months in their schools with the help of World Food Program by running programs which will raise funds to do. That's the entire strip is cause marketing. The cause, but there are series of causes that you can do, which collectively will point you towards your and drive you towards your purpose. So the point is, purpose is like a North Star, whereas cause marketing is like your roadmap to get from here to there. It's a specific things that you do. So purpose is much more in the philosophical or ethereal abstract space. Whereas if you look at your causes and cause marketing, they are more tangible. They are here and now.
I love that.
Just a quick question. So we could have it as purpose as vision and this cause marketing as mission or objectives. Is that the way that we could interpret?
See, mission and vision are often very misunderstood and confused terms, right? So mission is basically the reason why you exist. And the vision is how that mission, when it is brought to life, how will it look like?
Yeah.
Right?
So, Raja, there's a lot of different leaders and executives, CEOs, founders on this call. What should leaders know about purpose, and how can they ensure that they're resonating with their audience? And then further, how are purpose and business success connected? So Raja, if you want to just like any kind of tips and pointers for like founders, CEOs, executives that are on this call that want to bring purpose into their companies and to their, businesses.
Yeah, see, I'll first talk about founders for a minute and I'll come to CEOs because both are two different, I would say, they're two different groups of people with very different paths, okay, to success. Now, when you look at a founder might have started a company, and I have met a lot of founders, a lot of highly successful founders who have made billions of dollars with a B. I've been fortunate to meet some of those people and try to listen to their journeys and etc. One of the things you find is the founders have got the single biggest influence on determining the purpose of their company or of their entity, even when it is a small startup. The key thing is there are some founders who started, their whole objective was, they said, I must become a billionaire. Okay. And they looked at it as saying that I want to build a company that when I exit, either through IPO or I sell it off to somebody else, I want to become a billionaire. Now, that particular thing is what they thought was their purpose. But when they achieved that $1 billion, they found themselves in a vacuum. And then they said, okay, let me build a company. Let me build another company. Then what happens is they got onto a treadmill in a very different way because they did not start with a purpose. The key thing is you should understand making $1 billion it's a great objective. Go ahead, by all means. No issues at all. But you need to absolutely have something much larger than that. Getting to your $1 billion might be just the first step. And it has to be outward focused, not inward focused. And what I mean by that is, if you say that it's my bank balance, it is my number of cars, number of vacations, number of these things, your true happiness doesn't reside in any one of these or collectively all of these. They give temporary bursts of joy, so to speak, at best. And then that's about it. But then there is a constant, okay, what next? What next? What I'm doing? You're constantly chasing something. You don't know what you're chasing. What you are chasing, that is your purpose. You need to spend time on it right now. So before you start, or even if you're in the early stages, you need to think through the, okay, I make this big thing successful. What happens next? And what happens next? And what happens next? You will come to your purpose very quickly because purpose is something you should really believe in. Once you have got that clarity of purpose, you manifest it in your company, you will start attracting the right talent as well. Because if you're a purpose-driven founder, people will gravitate towards you. Because remember earlier how many people were showing both their hands when you're telling how many want to join the purpose-driven company and so on. So I think that is very critical. Most of the times, founders probably miss that opportunity. Number one. Number two, when you look at a CEO kind of a role, CEOs have spent a number of years before in various levels in different companies. And finally, you land in that CEO role. Okay, you have reached the number one spot. Now what? Yes, you make big bonus, you make big salary, you have got all the perks and all the good stuff, etc., etc. And then the key thing is you also are inheriting a legacy of culture, a legacy of a purpose or no purpose or whatever else it is. If it is, for example, a company which has been truly purpose-led, purpose-driven, what would happen is you will be able to actually carry it on to the next level. And I'll give you one simple example, the difference between purpose and performance. Now, Jack Welch was phenomenal at GE, right? And he was considered to be a maverick for performance. And every year, the bottom 10% of the performers will actually be let go. And it used to be a celebrated kind of a culture, saying that anyone who is in GE, they are so well trained, they're so highly accomplished, they're doing such a great stuff, etc., etc. But fast forward just 25 years and see where the company is today. Okay. The key thing is, I'm not saying GE is without any purpose. Don't get me wrong. All I'm saying is what you put at the priority is what really drives a lot. For CEOs, I would say that they have to most often come up with a purpose that fits with the cultural fabric of the company. If they are too far apart from the culture of the company, there'll be organ rejection. Either they will get themselves thrown out or this will be done only to please the boss for a short while, but nothing happens beyond that. So I would say that purpose is got to be approached right from day one as soon as you can. And that requires a lot of contemplation, introspection, and extrospection as well to understand if you're already in an inherited company. And I would say that's, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes. No, I love that. And I want to be respectful of your time, Raja, because I know you might have to, you have a busy schedule. Would you be able to take 2 or 3 questions? Or if you have to leave, that's fine as well.
Now, I can go on for about 5 to 6 minutes.
Okay, super. Michael, do you want to ask your one question? Keep it brief. Let's unmute yourself. Hold on. Oh, you have to unmute yourself, Michael. Sorry. Hold on.
Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yes.
Yes.
Brief question.
Raja, if you would tell the group why you are working with a company that is all about ethical sourcing. It's called Athena, and you're helping them get companies to take their passion and make it happen by validating sustainability.
One of the things we are trying to do across the board is to examine, saying that, okay, if this is, we do so many things as a company, right from the point of developing technologies, developing solutions which are software-based solutions, or we are enabling the ecosystem for payments across different companies and around the world. What we're trying to do is to consciously examine every aspect of our company and our company's day-to-day working and see, is there anything that we can link from here into our purpose? Is there something that we can do here that is truly making a difference, yet not in any way compromising the company's commercial performance? Now, what we try to constantly do is to make sure that we demystify this perception, okay, which is that if you are pursuing purpose, it means you're compromising profits. No, both of them can exist very well. You can do very well by doing very good to the society, right? So that's what we're trying to do, is to look across the board. And in the process, what we are doing is to working with a series of companies. This is the age of partnerships. You cannot do everything yourself. You have to rely on partners. And some of these partners, they bring some unique sets of energy, you can say, intellectual property. They bring about their capabilities. It is fascinating. And then that enriches you as a company, even while you are providing them with a platform for scaling. So it is a win all around for our company, for that other company who is our partner, as well as for the society at large. So it works. And if it works, you do it. And if it is not working, find out why. It's not because the concept is wrong. It's because maybe we are not doing it the right way. So that's what I would say. And we really cherish our partnerships. And in fact, just today, I believe we were having a discussion about one of the companies in Sweden. And they have got a way to measure your carbon footprint for every single transaction that you make on your card. Mm. And then we said, okay, because again, environment is something which I really care about, irrespective of whether people believe in climate change or not. I do believe in it. And I'm a trained engineer in that particular space. So I think it is proper science. It's not mumbo jumbo. So in that case, we partnered with that company. There is no ego in the thing, because for us, it's a great advantage from a competitive point of view. At the same time, it's a great sense of satisfaction that we are doing something bigger. Yeah. And for the other company, it's a lifeline.
Yes.
They get their 2 feet to really stand on a solid platform together with us. So that's how the whole thing has been working. And Athena, I guess, is along the same vein.
So Raja, I know you have to leave soon. So I just want to ask a rhetorical question for you. What do you think would have happened if you didn't raise your hand during that internship when the marketing team was there and you had stayed on the path of a chemical engineer, just how different your life would be, but also how the world would be so different right now. You mentioned the impact of 1 million girls in STEM and just all of these different campaigns with LGBTQ and all the amazing things you do at Mastercard with music, how different the world would be without your leadership. It's really, truly amazing. Please give him a round of applause. You've been unmute yourself, guys. Come on. Thank you so much, Raja. I don't know if you've been reading the comments, but you've inspired so many people on this call. And like I said, it's like raindrops, right? You have inspired so many people, and these people are starting companies, leading their own kind of small companies and businesses, and you've inspired them. So Raja, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, folks.